Be me, 34 years old. Never thought I'd be here watching my brother's life get dissected in front of strangers. The fluorescent lights are giving me a headache, but I can't look away from what's happening. Daniel is sitting at the defendant's table, his shoulders hunched in a way I've never seen before. He always stood so straight, even as a kid, when Dad used to measure us against the doorframe every birthday. Now he looks like someone folded him in half. Across the aisle sits Rebecca, his soon-to-be ex-wife, looking immaculate in a navy suit that probably cost more than my car payment. Her lawyer is this sharp-faced woman in her 50s who keeps shuffling papers with the confidence of someone who already knows they've won. I remember when Daniel first brought Rebecca home 7 years ago. She seemed nice enough, worked as a pharmaceutical sales rep, always laughed at Dad's terrible jokes. I thought it was genuine back then. They got married after 2 years of dating, big wedding at some vineyard upstate. I was maid of honor, even though Rebecca and I never really clicked. There was always something about the way she'd touch Daniel's arm when she wanted something, this little squeeze that looked affectionate but felt calculated. I pushed those thoughts down because what kind of person judges their brother's happiness? What kind of woman doesn't support another woman's relationship? I'd learned in all my years working in corporate environments that women need to lift each other up, not tear each other down with petty suspicions. So I smiled in the wedding photos and gave a toast about love and partnership. The judge is reading through the settlement terms now. My stomach is twisting into knots as I hear the numbers. The house they bought together 3 years ago, the one Daniel saved for years to afford the down payment on, goes to Rebecca. She gets 70% of their joint savings. Daniel's retirement account that he started contributing to when he was 22, fresh out of college and working his first real job, gets split with her taking 60%. He has to pay alimony for the next 5 years. Spousal support of $3,000 a month. I'm doing the math in my head and feeling physically sick. Daniel makes decent money as a civil engineer, but this is going to destroy him financially. He'll have to move back in with our parents at 37 years old. The judge asks if both parties agree to the terms. Rebecca's lawyer says yes immediately. Daniel's lawyer, this tired-looking guy who seems like he's been beaten down by the family court system for decades, hesitates before saying yes. I want to scream. I want to stand up and ask how this is possibly fair. But I sit there silent because what can I do? This is the legal system working as intended, right? This is equality, right? The hearing ends and people start filing out. I watch Rebecca hug her lawyer, actually hug her, like they're old friends celebrating a victory. And I guess they are. Daniel stands up slowly, and I can see his lawyer patting his shoulder in what's probably meant to be a comforting gesture. I make my way through the rows of benches to get to him. Mom and Dad are already there, Mom crying quietly, Dad looking angry in that impotent way men his age do when they can't fix something. Daniel sees me and tries to smile, but it doesn't reach his eyes. We all walk out together into the hallway with its scuffed linoleum floors and bulletin boards covered in legal notices. Rebecca walks past us with her lawyer, doesn't even glance our way. Her heels click against the floor with the rhythm of victory. We end up at a diner 3 blocks from the courthouse because none of us want to go home yet. The kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes like it's been sitting on the burner since the morning shift started. Daniel orders coffee black and doesn't touch it. Mom keeps asking if he's okay, and Dad keeps saying they'll figure it out. I'm sitting there trying to process what I just witnessed. Trying to reconcile what I know about fairness and equality with the reality of my brother losing everything he worked for. I keep thinking about all the times over the past 7 years that I noticed things but didn't say anything. Like how Rebecca quit her job 2 years into the marriage, said she wanted to focus on getting her real estate license. She never actually got the license. She spent her days going to yoga classes and meeting friends for lunch. Daniel never complained, said he made enough for both of them, said she deserved to pursue her interests. I remember thinking that was nice, that was progressive, that was a man supporting his wife's journey of self-discovery. Now I'm wondering if it was strategy, if she was setting up the narrative that she'd become financially dependent on him. Or how about the times she'd post on social media about how stressed Daniel was making her? Vague posts about emotional labor and unappreciated effort. Her friends would comment with supportive messages, and I'd see them and feel this twinge of concern. Was Daniel not treating her well? Was he being difficult in ways I couldn't see? I'd ask him about it, and he'd look confused, say things were fine, say Rebecca was just venting normal relationship stuff. I believed him, but also felt like maybe he wasn't seeing his own behavior clearly. Maybe he was one of those men who didn't realize how much work their wives did, so I never pushed it. There was the time about a year ago when Rebecca called me crying, said she thought Daniel might be having an affair. She said he was working late all the time, being secretive with his phone. I was horrified, angry at Daniel for potentially being that kind of man. I confronted him about it, and he looked absolutely baffled. Showed me his phone, his emails, his calendar. He'd been working late because his firm was understaffed and he was trying to make senior engineer. No affair, no secretive behavior, just work. I apologized and told Rebecca it was a misunderstanding. She seemed almost disappointed by the explanation. Now I'm sitting in this diner watching my brother stare at cold coffee, and I'm replaying every interaction. Every moment where I gave Rebecca the benefit of the doubt because I thought that's what women should do for each other. Every time I dismissed my own instincts because I'd been taught that women don't lie about this stuff. Women don't manipulate. Women are the victims of a patriarchal system, not the perpetrators. The divorce proceedings had started 6 months ago. Rebecca filed, claiming irreconcilable differences and emotional neglect. Daniel was blindsided, said he didn't even know she was unhappy. She moved in with her sister immediately and hired that lawyer within a week. The kind of speed that suggested planning, not spontaneous decision-making. During the discovery phase, her lawyer presented all these text messages and emails, carefully curated conversations that made Daniel look controlling and demanding, like one where he asked her to please remember to pay the electric bill because it was overdue and their power was about to be shut off, presented in court as evidence of financial abuse. Or messages where he asked if she could maybe cook dinner once in a while because he was exhausted from working 10-hour days, presented as evidence of demanding gendered labor and emotional manipulation. Daniel's lawyer tried to provide context, tried to show the full picture. But Rebecca's lawyer was better, smoother, more convincing. She painted this narrative of a woman trapped in a marriage with a man who controlled the finances, who made her feel small, who isolated her from friends and family. None of it was true. I was there, I saw them regularly. Rebecca had plenty of friends and went out constantly. Daniel gave her access to all their accounts, never questioned her spending. But the way Rebecca's lawyer told it, with Rebecca sitting there looking small and sad, it sounded believable. It sounded like every story we've all heard about controlling men and their victims. The judge, a woman in her 60s who probably came up through the legal system fighting for women's rights, ate it up. You could see it in her face, the sympathy, the recognition of a pattern she'd probably seen 1,000 times. Except this time the pattern wasn't real. This time it was theater. But how do you prove that? How do you prove that someone is lying when they're crying real tears and saying all the right words? I think about my own career, the presentations I've given, the campaigns I've designed. I know how to construct a narrative, how to make people feel something, how to guide them to a conclusion. Rebecca did the same thing, just with higher stakes. She crafted a victim narrative and performed it perfectly. And everyone believed her because why wouldn't they? We're supposed to believe women. I believe women. I've spent years advocating in my workplace for women to be heard, to be taken seriously, to have their experiences validated. I've shut down men who tried to question women's accounts of harassment or discrimination. I've given presentations on unconscious bias and the importance of centering women's voices. And I still believe in all of that. But sitting here watching my brother's life in ruins, I'm feeling something I don't know how to process. There's this anger building in my chest, and I don't know where to direct it. I'm angry at Rebecca, obviously, for what she did. But I'm also angry at a system that made this possible. And then I feel guilty for being angry at the system because the system exists to protect women who actually need protecting. The system exists because for decades, centuries, women were left with nothing after divorce. Women who sacrifice careers to raise children and maintain homes, only to be abandoned with no financial security. The alimony laws, the asset division guidelines, they exist for good reasons. They exist because of real injustice. But Rebecca didn't sacrifice anything. And she didn't raise children, they don't have kids. She didn't give up a career, she chose not to work. She didn't maintain the home, they had a cleaning service. She just existed in Daniel's life for 5 years of marriage, and now she gets to walk away with most of what he spent 15 years building. And I can't say any of this out loud because what would it make me? What kind of feminist questions the system's designed to protect women? What kind of woman sides with a man over a woman in divorce court? My coffee is getting cold and Mom is still fussing over Daniel. Dad is on his phone, probably looking at his retirement account, trying to figure out how much he can help without destroying his own financial security. I'm thinking about tomorrow when I go back to work. There's a team meeting where we're supposed to discuss the new inclusive marketing campaign. I'll sit there and nod along as we talk about amplifying women's voices and challenging male-dominated narratives. And I'll mean it, I'll still believe in it. But there will be this small seed of doubt now, this tiny question mark. If the system can be manipulated like this, if someone like Rebecca can weaponize the tools meant for protection, what does that mean? How many other Rebeccas are there? And the moment I think that, I feel disgusted with myself. That's exactly what men's rights activists say. That's the argument used to discredit actual victims. I sound like the enemy. I sound like the men I've spent years arguing against in comment sections and meeting rooms. But I can't unsee what I just saw. I can't unfeel what I'm feeling. Daniel finally speaks, says he needs to start looking for an apartment. Something cheap, something he can afford on what's left of his salary after the support payments. Mom starts crying harder and Dad's jaw clenches. I offer to help him look, to co-sign if he needs it, anything. He thanks me, but his voice is hollow. We pay the check and walk out into the afternoon sun. It's one of those perfect spring days, warm but not hot, everything blooming. The kind of day that feels insulting when your world is falling apart. I hug Daniel goodbye and promise to call him later. Drive home to my apartment, the one I'm so proud of because I earned it myself, paid for it with my own money, my own career success. Pour a glass of wine and sit on my couch staring at nothing. My phone buzzes with a text from my friend Sarah asking how the hearing went. I type out a response 3 times and delete it each time. What do I say? That I witnessed an injustice, but I'm not allowed to call it that. That I'm questioning everything I thought I believed, but also not questioning it because the foundations are still solid. Just this one case is wrong. That I'm angry and confused and feel like a traitor to my own principles. I settle for saying it was rough and I don't want to talk about it. She sends back a heart emoji and says she's there if I need her. I wonder what she'd think if I told her the truth. Would she get it, or would she think I'm being dramatic, prioritizing my brother's male feelings over his wife's experience? Would she remind me about the statistics, the overwhelming number of women who do get screwed in divorce, who do suffer financial abuse? She'd be right to remind me. Those statistics are real, but so is what happened today. I think about Rebecca in her navy suit counting her winnings. I think about Daniel's slumped shoulders. I think about the judge who probably thought she was doing the right thing, protecting a vulnerable woman. I think about Rebecca's lawyer who definitely knew she was selling a story, but did it anyway because that's her job. I think about Daniel's lawyer who seemed defeated before he even started because he knew how this would go. I think about myself, sitting silent in that courtroom, complicit in my silence. Could I have testified as a character witness? Would it have mattered? Probably not. Rebecca's narrative was too polished, too perfect, too aligned with what everyone expects to hear. Daniel's truth was too boring, too normal, too easily dismissed as a manipulator's cover story. The sky outside my window is turning orange and pink. My wine glass is empty. I should eat something, but the thought makes me nauseous. Instead, I open my laptop and start reading about divorce law, about asset division, about alimony guidelines. Fall down a rabbit hole of legal precedents and family court statistics. Find forums where men talk about being destroyed in divorce court. Their stories sound like what happened to Daniel. I've always dismissed these forums as hangouts for bitter misogynists, men who probably deserved what they got. But now I'm reading them and seeing familiar patterns. Seeing Daniel's story repeated over and over. And mixed in are probably genuine cases of bitter men who did deserve it, who were abusers or cheaters or deadbeats. But how do you tell the difference from the outside? How does a judge tell the difference? They probably default to believing the woman because statistically that's the safer bet. Because historically women have been the ones disadvantaged. Because we've built a system trying to correct for centuries of injustice. And 99 times out of 100 that's probably the right call. But Daniel got to be the one time, the false positive, the collateral damage. I close my laptop because this isn't helping. Try to watch TV but can't focus. End up just sitting there as it gets dark, not bothering to turn on the lights. My phone rings and it's Daniel. I answer and he doesn't say anything for a moment, just breathes. Then he asks if I think he did something wrong. If there's something he missed, something he should have done differently. He sounds so lost. I tell him no. I tell him Rebecca manipulated the situation. I tell him it's not his fault. He's quiet again, and then says he keeps replaying the marriage in his head, trying to figure out when she started planning this. Was it always the plan? Did she ever actually love him? Or was he just a mark from the beginning? I don't have answers. I don't think anyone does. He says he has to go, and we hang up. I sit there in the dark, feeling helpless. Feeling angry. Feeling guilty for feeling angry. It's a cycle I can't break. The next morning I go to work and everything is normal. People are talking about their weekends, about TV shows, about office gossip. I sit in my meeting and discuss the marketing campaign. We're focusing on women's empowerment, on challenging traditional gender roles. I contribute ideas and approve concepts and mean every word. But there's this disconnect now. This awareness that the tools we use to fight injustice can become weapons in the wrong hands. And no one wants to talk about that, because acknowledging it feels like giving ammunition to the people who oppose progress. It's like we've created this binary where you either believe all women unconditionally or you're a misogynist. There's no room for nuance, for complexity, for the reality that people are individuals capable of both truth and deception, regardless of gender. Rebecca used a system designed to help vulnerable women to rob a man who trusted her, and she'll face no consequences because she did nothing technically illegal. She just lied effectively. The weeks pass and I help Daniel move into a small apartment across town. 1 bedroom, thin walls, a water stain on the ceiling. He tries to make jokes about bachelorhood, but they fall flat. Mom brings him groceries and Dad slips him money when he thinks no one is looking. I take him out to dinner once a week, my treat, because I know he's barely scraping by. He's lost weight, not in a healthy way. His clothes hang off him, and there are dark circles under his eyes. He works overtime when he can to try to build his savings back up, but the support payments eat everything. I run into Rebecca once at a grocery store. She's with a man I don't recognize, laughing at something he said, her cart full of expensive organic products. She sees me, and her smile doesn't falter. Actually waves like we're old friends. The audacity makes my blood boil. I don't wave back, just turn and walk away before I do something I'll regret. Spend the rest of the day furious, imagining all the things I should have said. All the ways I could have confronted her. But what would be the point? She won, she knows she won, and nothing I say will change that. Months go by, and Daniel slowly starts to seem more like himself. Still living in the sad apartment, still struggling financially, but less hollow. He starts dating someone, a woman he met through work. She seems nice, genuine, not at all like Rebecca. But I catch myself watching their interactions with suspicion, analyzing her motives, looking for red flags, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I hate that I do this. Hate that Rebecca has made me this cynical. I hate that I can't just be happy for my brother finding someone new. At work, I'm leading a new initiative on pay equity, fighting to close the gender pay gap in our company. It's important work I believe in. But sometimes in meetings when someone brings up women's issues, I feel this weird resistance. This tiny voice asking if we're seeing the full picture. This doubt that I immediately suppress, because where does that doubt lead? It leads to questioning everything, to dismantling systems that are still desperately needed. One woman manipulating the divorce system doesn't negate the thousands of women who need that system to survive, leaving abusive marriages. One false claim doesn't invalidate the countless true claims. I know this intellectually. I know the statistics, I know the history, I know the reality. But emotionally, I'm stuck in that courtroom, watching my brother lose everything. I'm stuck in this weird space between my principles and my experience. Between what I know to be generally true and what I witnessed specifically happen. And no one talks about this space. This gray area where your lived experience contradicts your ideology. Where seeing one injustice doesn't negate other injustices but also can't be ignored. I can't talk about it with my progressive friends because they'll think I'm betraying the cause. Can't talk about it with conservative people because they'll use it as validation for their regressive views. Can't even really talk about it with Daniel because he's living it, not analyzing it. So I just carry it around, this uncomfortable truth that doesn't fit neatly into any framework I have. This awareness that systems designed for good can be exploited. That believing women is crucial, but so is seeking truth. That protection for the vulnerable can become a weapon for the manipulative. And maybe the answer is that there is no perfect system. Maybe any system built by humans will have flaws because humans are flawed. Maybe the goal isn't perfection, but constant adjustment, constant awareness, constant willingness to acknowledge when something goes wrong without throwing out the whole framework. But that's exhausting. That requires holding multiple contradictory truths at once. That requires admitting that sometimes there are no good answers. A year after the divorce, Daniel seems okay. Not great, not thriving, but okay. Still paying Rebecca every month, will be for 4 more years. Still living in that apartment, still rebuilding. His new girlfriend makes him smile, and that's something. I'm still at my job, still advocating for women, still believing in the cause. But I'm different now. More cautious, more questioning, more aware of complexity. Less certain of everything. Less willing to accept simple narratives. More uncomfortable in spaces that demand ideological purity. I saw my brother get destroyed by a system I support. I watched a woman weaponize victimhood for profit. I witnessed injustice and couldn't stop it. And I have to live with all of that while still fighting for justice in other contexts. I have to hold space for Daniel's truth while not using it to dismiss other women's truths. Have to acknowledge what Rebecca did while not letting it make me suspicious of all women. Have to believe in systemic change while recognizing that systems can be gamed. It's complicated and messy and doesn't fit on a bumper sticker. Doesn't make for a clean social media post. Doesn't align neatly with any political platform. I'm sitting in my apartment on a random Tuesday evening. Daniel just texted that he made his monthly payment to Rebecca. Added a sardonic emoji like he's learned to laugh about it. But I know it still hurts. I know he's still working extra hours to afford basic necessities. I know he's still living in that apartment with the water stain, while Rebecca is probably in the house he bought, the house he saved for, living her best life on his dime. And tomorrow I'll go to work and advocate for women's rights. Because I have to. Because the cause is still just, even if this one instance was wrong. Because Rebecca doesn't represent all women any more than one corrupt cop represents all police, or one dishonest lawyer represents all attorneys. But I'll carry this with me, this knowledge that fairness is complicated, that justice isn't always just, that sometimes the person who tells the best story wins regardless of truth. And I'll wonder if anyone else in those meetings is carrying similar knowledge, similar experiences that don't fit the narrative, similar doubts they're too afraid to voice, or if I'm alone in this uncomfortable middle ground. This space between ideology and reality, between what should be true and what actually happened. I finish my wine and get ready for bed. Tomorrow is another day of navigating this contradiction. Another day of being a feminist who watched her brother get destroyed by a system feminists built. Another day of believing in equality, while knowing that equality in practice is messier than equality in theory. Another day of holding multiple truths that don't reconcile. And maybe that's the real story. Not that I changed my mind about everything. Not that one bad experience invalidated a lifetime of learning. But that I learned complexity isn't betrayal. That questioning doesn't mean abandoning. That seeing injustice in an unexpected place doesn't make you a traitor to the cause. It just makes you human. Makes you someone who cares about fairness in all directions. Someone who wants systems that protect the vulnerable without enabling the manipulative. And I don't know how to build that system. Don't know if it's even possible. But I know sitting in that courtroom changed me. Know watching Rebecca walk away with everything changed me. Know seeing Daniel broken changed me. And I have to figure out what to do with that change. How to hold on to my principles while acknowledging their limitations. How to fight for justice while recognizing that justice is complicated. How to be the person I want to be in a world that's messier than I thought. The lights go out and I'm left in darkness, thinking about Daniel in his apartment, thinking about Rebecca in her house, thinking about all the people everywhere navigating systems that don't quite work, trying to find fairness in structures built by imperfect people, trying to do right in a world that makes it hard. And tomorrow I'll wake up and try again. Still believing, still questioning, still uncomfortable. Still figuring out what it means to seek justice when justice is complicated. Still my brother's sister. Still a woman who believes in women's rights. Still someone who witnessed something that doesn't fit. Still trying to make sense of it all. My face when I realize fairness is more complicated than I ever wanted to admit. My face when one courtroom day fundamentally shifted how I see everything. My face when I have to live in this uncomfortable truth forever. My face when there's no clean resolution, no easy answer, no satisfying ending. Just complexity and contradiction and the daily choice to keep trying anyway.